resource. And it just went.
I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Edgewood Planning and Zoning Commission, May 28th. It's now 6:30 PM. We're going to start with roll call. Commissioner Fox.
Present.
Commissioner Herrera is out tonight. Commissioner Huppert's.
Present.
Commissioner Turner.
Present.
And Commissioner Felton's here. Are we expecting Jim Lee, do you know?
No, he's in Germany.
He's in Germany, all right. And what we have tonight looks like discussion items anyway, so. The first item we have here on the agenda is approval of the agenda. So if you all have had a little while to look at that, maybe give it one last look, let me know if you need any changes. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to go ahead and accept the agenda.
I move that we accept the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have approval of the minutes, the draft Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes for May 14th. And they're fairly lengthy. If you need some more time to look them over before we go ahead and approve those, go right ahead. I don't know how we're going to catch typos without Commissioner Lee here, huh? We'll have to count on Commissioner Turner.
Yeah, she's pretty.
I'll move that we accept the commissioning meeting minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So the next item actually is an action item before we get to discussion. This is an update on the comprehensive plan and potentially are accepting these to send forward to council. Is that right?
Yes, the action strategies to be approved by
So
council.
we have some folks here from Mr. Cog. Thank you for, you guys just keep coming in,
Thank you for having us.
putting in the time, traveling all that distance.
Such a pleasure. Yeah, so, hi everyone. Basically, what is in front of you tonight, and I think, did they all get the that version?
Yes.
Anything in red was a change from what we had originally had. And there are minor changes based on staff and I believe the fire chief, police chief, fire chief comment. Staff met to look over these and check it out for feasibility, what's already being done. They caught a
chief,
couple things that
please.
were already being done. And there is one objective they would like to recommend to the council to amend that, take out from the objectives. So hopefully you've had a chance to see these, but I just figured if there were further edits, they could take place tonight, and it could be moved forward with those edits. So take your time and let me know if you have any questions.
So just the one on the third page, Objective 2 under Goal C, that's what we're recommending come out,
Correct.
future water needs of commercial
I
areas.
believe that was due to feasibility. Do you recall, Tanya?
Objective 2 on page 3.
Uh-huh. Goal C, Objective 2. That was one that staff had recommended to take out.
Okay.
I believe it should be.
Yes.
I believe
It's
it was
feasibility.
feasibility
Mhm.
related.
Yeah, because the objective above it speaks to that.
And everything else are just minor text edits to the action strategies, so that how you will implement these things. And some of them are pretty minor. For example, we got the correct name of the Edgewood Parks and Recreation Open Space Trails Master Plan, whereas we kind of had a space holder there before, things like that.
I've got a question.
Sure.
I was reading this earlier. It's on Goal E, Objective 1. We encourage utilities to be installed underground. We can't make them installed underground. I guess all we can do is, like, ask them nicely, or...
So encouraging utilities to be installed underground came from the last plan, and it's something that the communities seem to feel very strongly positively about. And for implementation, one thing that could be done is piece out different areas of town and figure out, based on soil feasibility. One thought that we'd had is put it back on the applicant to show that it's too hard to do that. And that's pretty quick to demonstrate once you look at the soil and go, that's not something we're going to do, and the commission could act on that. It's aspirational, so up to you guys. There was some community support for it, but also feasibility is always a question. And we don't want it to be too onerous on the applicant.
Right.
Well, in the last meeting that we had, community meeting, I think even people who thought it might not always be feasible offered that it was worth leaving it in for those areas where it is feasible.
Right.
Where you don't have a lot of rock, the soil is pretty easy to dig. You know, when you get south of here where you're encountering more rock.
Right, and there definitely are areas of town where it's not financially
Right.
feasible at all.
Yep.
Well, it looks like the language is loose enough that it allows for that, since where feasible. There is nothing in an ordinance currently, is there, regarding this? Does the
I don't
subdivision ordinance
think
address
so.
this?
No.
Usually, I think the people dividing will get better, more profit if they put them underground, you know, so it's to their advantage to do that if they're
Right,
creating
to
a
protect the
subdivision.
view sheds, yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
that might be just a motivator for them to do that when they can.
And if they can show that it's really not economically feasible for them, then
Yeah, so the first draft here, or is this old, where we were a little ambitious and said, town will amend relevant ordinances.
Right,
I think ambitious is the right word.
Yeah,
yeah.
so we backed away
Get
from that a little
gung-ho,
bit.
Yeah.
And we'll see,
Softened it.
council may feel differently and feel more or less gung-ho about various items
Mhm.
in there.
I think it's fine the way
Yeah,
it is.
I like reviewing the ordinances. Leaves it a little more amorphous.
Yeah.
I also like the changes that were made that didn't tie down too narrowly of who you were going to cooperate with and who you were going to go with. think that's a
I
plus.
think Linda was definitely instrumental in broadening the focus to who might be involved in
Right.
it, so shout out to her.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you, Linda.
thank you.
You know, I may be being too legalistic here, but when I look at Goal F, Objective 1, is it safer to say the town will complete and adopt a Town of Edgewood Parks and Recreation Master Plan rather than the Town of Edgewood Parks and Recreation Master Plan?
Yeah, I think
It's
that-
like the difference between, should and shall.
Right, and I wondered
Yeah.
about that when I was reviewing this too.
Yeah.
Because it seems like that plan could change and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we should always have a plan, but not necessarily
The one
one
we
that's
have
right in front of
We
us.
got this permanent plan that's what we can stick to, that doesn't leave for,
Yeah, I think that definitely leaves it open to, like, we need the a plan,
Yep.
they're on the case, it's happening, but it wouldn't, this is not a legally binding document.
Right.
But it's always nice to be more open. So
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
yeah, I agree with that.
The people actually do read it. When they do bring them to a public hearing, they have
Mhm.
read it very closely and
Yeah.
parse the sentences carefully, so.
On Objective 3, on that same page,
Another one.
has the town already adopted a plan? I've not been clear about that and listening
I'm not
to
sure on
Roger.
that. I
So-
don't know if it ever went through, did it?
I spoke to him the other day. He came in to introduce the next Roger. And it sounds like the scope has broadened, but I wasn't clear on a timeline or anything. So it didn't sound like, I'm not sure.
So that would be something that's going to need, that the town will need to work on, having a plan, to adopt a plan? Is that what we're saying?
So the new
Yeah,
Parks and
but
Rec
it's
person
underway.
is going to be working on it.
So we need to change there, too.
Yeah,
Should
there's
say
a "the"
A
that should be in
instead of
A,
the-
in both
But
of those
it's not-
objectives.
Yeah.
Incorporate.
So these are future things, not something that's already, for sure,
Right.
happened and written in stone?
Right.
I caught 2 total A's. Do you see a third?
No,
Nope.
just
I
two.
don't.
Objective 3, that second bullet
Second bullet,
point.
too, yeah.
Well, town will incorporate a Town of Edgewood.
Oh, A. Okay.
Town will incorporate plan policies. Do you want me to say A?
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, you're right.
Oh, so, okay, is the blue underline, is that going to stay in there, or, okay. It wasn't struck.
It's not struck out, it's underlined, so I'm
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah.
So that's added. Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned. Red is
Yeah.
added, struck through, not so much anymore.
Right, ours is printed, mine's printed in blue, not red.
Mine's
so-
printed in blue and it's underlined, so.
Yeah.
It's just expanding on what policies
I gave
we're
you guys
inserting.
the updated one. It was a handout.
Mhm.
You have that?
So before it said town will incorporate policies into relevant design.
Yeah, I made notes on this one I have, so.
Oh, okay.
Might be a
Yeah.
All right.
problem.
Right.
Is the master plan, is it a policy statement?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I haven't either. Did it? I mean, again, it sounds like I'm being a stickler, but does the master plan have the power to dictate policy?
Is the council going to adopt it by resolution? That's right. The master plan.
Never got close enough to see that I can involved.
So really, we don't have a master plan of.
For parks and
all-
trails.
For all these we've been talking
It's
about.
being worked on. Seems to be underway from what I understand.
Well, then maybe that second bullet point is premature. Maybe-
I like the fact that there is a feedback loop into policies.
Okay.
But you're right.
Maybe say at such time, when it's completed, or then.
I mean, the way it's worded, I could construct a trails master plan, and in it, I could say, the town of Edgewood will do this and that, and everyone involved will, I could obligate the town
Right.
by drafting policy into the plan. And I know this is not binding, but still, I wonder if it's misleading
Kind
this
of what
way.
I was thinking too, as I
Right.
read this.
Yeah,
'Cause-
what's a way to incorporate the
It's-
feedback loop of,
Yeah.
we will follow it.
Right, I think it should be left in, but I'm trying to think of a different way to say it.
Elements?
I think it
No,
almost
a
needs to
town
be,
will
they need to
incorporate-
develop one. They haven't developed one, so we're already adopting it. Maybe it should be that they should develop a plan.
That's in here that they should develop, they will develop and adopt.
Yeah,
So this is
Will
kind of the
complete,
next step to
okay, yeah,
that.
that's true.
And objective 3 is implement the plan, so this would be the element that's.
I mean, I'll give you a real-life example, and it came up in the last community meeting. Someone suggested that Town of Edgewood policy should be a budget earmark for Parks and Rec.
Correct.
That a certain percent of the operating budget should always be set aside for Parks and Rec. So,
That's true of every department.
Yeah, everybody has their own budget. Every department has their own budget.
yeah, but when you start saying it like it will always be set aside for Parks and Rec.
A certain
Now you're
percentage.
talking about an
Oh.
earmark. And
That's
if
not
that's
feasible.
a policy statement of the Parks and Rec Department, all they'd have to do is write it into their Trails Master Plan that, we will need 10% of the town's budget every year, and it becomes policy.
There could be other, there should be other.
I know, that's why this objective reading this way makes it sound like they could. So let me think of another way to word this. I think I know what you're saying, that,
Town will incorporate plan, relevant design guidelines from.
Yeah, I was
plan
thinking of the word
into other-
guidelines. yes,
Yeah, yeah, that sounds better.
something a little softer than, the master plan is the policy statement.
So
Town
take out
will-
policies.
Yeah, I would say town will incorporate Town of Edgewood Parks, Rec, Open Space, and Trails Master Plan guidelines. That's a weaker way to say the same thing, though. That's not exactly what we mean.
Well, I don't know if I'd even name the master plan here. You could say
Say to incorporate policies of relevant design guidelines.
something like that, yeah. Town will incorporate Town of Edgewood Parks and Recreation guidelines into relevant design of trails. So you're not using the word guidelines twice. It's like, now you're saying when the town moves to expand trails or improve trails, they're always going to consult Parks and Rec.
Say that
What-
one more time, Glenn. Town will incorporate Town of Edgewood.
Parks and Recreation guidelines
in-
into relevant design of,
But keep the plan title. Yeah, so keep the plan title and say elements into relevant design guidelines.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, we could try that. That's softer than policies.
Because then it's, yeah, you implement the elements. It
Mhm.
wouldn't be
The elements that were outlined in the plan. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, plan title.
Yeah, that's somewhere in between policy and guideline.
So the first one is that vote approve and adopt Town of Edgewood Parks and Rec Open Space Trails Master Plan. Right there is evidence that that is
Yeah,
approved.
right, and that's why we want to change the to a, like
Doesn't exist
a
yet.
plan, whatever that plan may be. It's good to have one and for everybody to be on the same page with it,
Right.
but I don't think we're ready to say this one.
Okay. I have that change. Anything else?
Sorry.
This is why we're here.
I was thinking the same thing, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Also, just so you know, the next step at council is, since they deal more with budgetary concerns and things like that, the ask along with approving this or approving as amended is that they're going to prioritize these items into a time frame. So just near term, midterm, long term, because it would come to them anyway. We've done that elsewhere. So some of these will be more near term and some will be more long term.
Is staff going to make recommendations on that, or?
That might be a good way to expedite the process a little bit, so we could put on that.
Yeah.
So you're Where are you in the budget process at this point? Do you,
Just past the
interim?
interim.
Interim, okay.
Send out to EFA for their approval.
Well, that should give an idea of, what's in the current budget, give an idea for that.
On Objective G, the Goal G, Objective 1, when we talk about the town funding the redesign process of Section 16, when we took, that's kind of general. I know a lot of these are general, but, I guess what I kind of specifically want to know what group it would do this, P and Z, Park and Recreation, what group of the town would actually do this?
It would probably, and Tanya can jump in at any time, fall to staff to identify some funding. It usually is a consultant who would work on that and help out and guide the process.
Where would the ideas, who would be putting the ideas into what Section 16 should look like?
That would probably be another community process, so kind of like the workshops we were having, getting a lot of community input.
There's already a master plan on Section 16,
Right.
so it could be amended.
So that would require public hearings.
I
Yes.
just wondered what the process would be to kind of on some of
Yeah.
these things in here, I'm like, it's just the
Sure.
town will, well, what's that process? How would
Yeah,
that get
keep asking
done?
questions for
That's
you.
a good-
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's a good. One. Gwen, from the head.
Yes. Linda?
Where are you, Linda? Okay,
Fourth bullet.
back to F, okay.
Okay. Town will pursue regional collaboration on
For-
appropriate facilities, services, and projects. 4 bullets down.
Maybe 4 appropriate projects.
My elected better than just do that one day.
Yeah.
So then sort of,
And appropriate projects.
Sure.
Where do you want do you want the appropriate to be a blanket appropriate for all of these things? So town will pursue regional collaboration on appropriate facilities, services, and projects?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the one below it is similar, bullet 5.
Town will pursue collaboration with the counties and providing, oh yeah, okay. On providing appropriate recreational facilities and services.
Mhm.
Do you want the appropriate to come first?
I think it's appropriate.
Thanks, Tanya.
It's meta-appropriate.
Right.
Town will pursue collaboration where appropriate. With counties on providing recreational facilities and services.
What is it? It's not me.
Recreational facilities and services, okay. Anything else on here?
Well, the
Yeah.
3 below it are weird.
All right, let's go.
Well, I have kind of a question about the number 2 and 3, where we're seeking to provide recreational activities for adults and for youth. I would like to see a more overall statement that says that to provide recreational activities for all ages.
Yeah, that'd
That's
be,
I mean,
Yeah.
make
you
it
know.
Got
simpler.
4 or 5 of them here, look like they could be condensed into one.
Yeah.
Right, actually, it could be.
On a couple occasions, I believe I was specifically asked to tease it out. I don't mind combining them.
I mean, collaborating with regional and counties, you could put regional and counties, and you could probably combine that sentence.
Right.
I think the idea was trying to hit what was in the Survey Monkey,
From the survey, yeah.
Okay.
the way that we had it out.
Right.
That's probably the idea behind.
But this one, this
Teasing it out.
objective 4 it's really long compared to all of the others. And that's something that I think we could combine,
Shorten that a little bit.
shorten it a little bit and make it more all-inclusive.
One bullet point away from that and grab basketballs and shoot for them.
Right. Build a horseshoe pit, yeah.
Do you want to combine the second and third bullet points at least?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
For all ages?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can probably combine,
4 and 5?
And 5.
Yep.
Good.
and then those last three, town will seek to provide recreational programming. Yeah, that's why we have a Parks and Recreation Department, right?
Right.
Isn't that kind of a,
Given?
yeah.
Well, no, not really.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
We talked about when we had our meetings that, yeah, we were.
I don't know what this means.
we
Town
have-
will
we have-
seek to provide recreational
Got
programs.
Trails, open space and everything, but we've never prioritized any recreational programs that the town might sponsor.
Yeah, and it was brought up in one of the meetings that it was done through grant funding previously. So I think the wording seeks to get around putting the town on the hook for providing them through their budget.
So I guess for that,
Necessarily.
So they might seek to
I've
provide
lost-
funding.
Could we say seek funding to
well, I've
provide?
lost track of bullet numbers, but the one that's next to the last, I would probably say, the town will support Parks and Rec pursuing grant funding, rather
Is
than,
Parks and Rec not the town, though?
yeah, rather than the town will seek grant funding for Parks and Rec. I mean, Parks and Rec writes a grant, and if they need something from town administration to help them pull it off, that's how it works.
Town Parks and Rec
Mhm.
will pursue grant funding.
The town will support Parks and Rec pursuing grant funding.
Because there might be a match.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you guys work, it's their idea. They go find the granting agencies that.
And they come to,
Exactly.
Yeah, they
And
come
then they
to-
need your help to get it done.
right, administration to say, can we match this?
Right.
Yeah.
And that sets up that there is a policy that, yes, we're going to encourage that.
Yeah.
If what we want to say is the town will make Parks and Rec a higher priority, then let's say that.
The town will support Parks and Rec pursuing in the pursuit of grant funding.
Yeah, yeah. And then the one that's above that and the one that's below it just strike me as,
Just like you will
Strange.
police and everybody else.
well, exactly. But, the one above it says, town will seek to provide funding in the budget for Parks and Rec projects. Yeah, that's true for any department. So I don't know why we need to say it as a goal of the comprehensive plan.
And I think that's one thing that we were asking some of the people at that meeting, when we were talking about this, was, isn't the department already have a budget that they have to give to the council? So
Right.
I thought that was a little too.
This is daily for office.
Right.
Not like you're starting Parks and Rec from scratch. You have a budget.
You have a framework, yes, it's all,
What Parks and Rec has done in the more recent years is not programming.
Right, that's
Right.
why it
It's
was
been
put in there.
facilities.
Is programming different than activities? Because then I'll strike the bottom one and we'll just keep the top one that's combined into
I
town
don't
seek
think
to
it's
My
all that
activities and
different.
program, it really is the same.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
striking the bottom one because that will encompass it. That one's much shorter now.
When I think about it, it's like, activities could be sort of one-time events where programming is like, every summer you do this program. And I don't know, you could put them in one sentence and say,
right,
activities and programming for all ages.
right,
Yeah.
because like
Yeah.
activities, I would think of more like movie night. you know.
Yeah.
Although it has become it's been repeated.
You
but
do a
it's-
little of each.
I
You
would
do
say
things that are
activities and
one
program.
shot.
Put both
Yeah.
those words. in
Sure. Some things become regular and self-sustaining, and other things are one-shot deals. So if you say both, activities and programming, it kind of covers it.
Great.
The budget thing, I don't know. I think people were hungry for an earmark.
Well, I don't
They
think,
feel like there's not enough money going into the Parks and Rec budget, and they want more, but I don't know how
well,
making a statement in the comprehensive plan is going to accomplish that.
well, the way you do that is you approach it as a budgetary issue and go to the governing body and see if they're,
Ask for more.
That's a point, good point.
but I don't think you want to drive budget decisions through this. I think that's
No,
getting a little bit out of it.
because we don't know from
Depends
year
on
to
what the
year what it
budget
looks
is.
like.
Identify priorities so that they can pursue different
Right.
ways.
Yeah.
'Cause
Now, that may be something that comes up when you talk in a narrative about how to implement these things. Now you might be saying that,
What do you do?
yeah, that we hope the council will entertain a larger budget for Parks and Rec, and however you want to go at it. But I don't know that it needs to be a statement under the objective. Every department always wants more money,
Yeah.
and every department's always hungry because they don't get enough.
I think the top board is there, prioritize recreational facilities,
Exactly.
projects, and identify funding for prioritize projects, not just
Yeah.
sums it up.
Right.
That's responsive to what was said in the community survey. People said they wanted more stuff, more recreation, more programming. And this makes a pretty wide, open-ended statement to that effect. But I don't think you need to get into, we're going to throw more money at it. Yeah. And this was kind of a long set of statements. It was,
So how many bullet points have you got now?
So right
Tentatively.
now, we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is down quite a few.
yep.
So I think that'll be fine.
And if you look at kind of the areas that they address, one has to do with priorities, one has to do with
Yeah,
activities and age groups.
Do you want me to read them through with the edits?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
1, town will prioritize recreational facilities projects, and identify funding for prioritized projects. 2, town will seek to provide recreational activities and programming for all ages.
Mhm.
3, actually, you said combine it, so town will pursue regional collaboration on appropriate facilities, services, and projects. I think
What
that would,
counties?
should I add counties in there?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make that one.
And counties, yeah, those 2 sentences would be combined.
Right.
Okay. So we're really down to 4. And then we have
The one about grants.
the town will support Parks and Recreation in its pursuit of grant funding.
Yep.
That's good.
So the only thing I would add to that on the first bullet is maybe I can town will prioritize recreational facilities, projects, what can we say about programming? Is that what we were trying to? Parks and Rec.
Facilities, projects, and programming. Correct.
So add the word.
Yeah, because we talk about programming.
Well, and it comes back to funding again. Now, it sounds like the town's on the hook to come up with the money for the things that,
It says the town will prioritize it.
and identify funding, and identify funding for prioritized projects.
Where feasible. Or just take that part off because we talk about it later.
We're not as picky as town council.
Obviously, in a lean year, they're gonna
Yeah.
have money for anything.
Yeah.
And they love the year, so.
damn phone, then.
I guess we'll see how it flies. To me, it sounds like once a project has been made a priority, the town has to go find money for it.
Guess it depends on the reader, but
Yeah.
identify, just say, well, here are some grants you can go out and look for.
Yep.
Here are some appropriate, do you want this more than you want that? That would come out of the budget, those kind of decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I would think of that bridge out here, sort of, it kind of worked its way to the top by virtue of coming up from Houston place over here,
Hmm.
coming a bit closer to where the action was. And that thing come along and we're willing to put up some money for it.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings it down to,
There's an opportunity.
right, it's all.
I'm just, my wheels are spinning about a different way to say it, but we don't have to say it a different way. This, and when you read prioritize, does that mean the town will make a priority of recreational stuff? Or does it mean the town will come up with a list of projects by priority? Number 1, number 2, number 3.
Maybe it should be identified.
I like that word.
Maybe we should take out the word prioritize, because
Yeah.
Identify would be a good.
identify activities.
Yeah,
True.
But
Maybe
activities,
that's the way to do it.
facilities, activities, and programming,
Town will identify
Identify
recreational facilities.
and seek
projects,
funding.
and programs.
my wife keeps telling me it's not too late to go to law school, Like, she says you like to argue anyway, you might as well get paid for it. The way we string words together, it can be read a bunch of different ways.
That's true.
And then you have somebody saying, well, you said you were going to make a priority list of recreational projects. My project was number 1, why isn't it getting done? I don't think that's what we're meaning to say.
Yeah, I think this says how it would accurately happen. You identify what's meaningful.
ICIG all the time.
So is that what we're getting at, is
I believe so.
identify projects and then make a priority of finding funding for them?
And some of it would be, okay, you have these, like the bridge that's there, and now suddenly you have this app called projects, it's funding, it may have been a low priority, it was identified as something you want to do, but now you have this funding source,
Mhm.
you jump on it and you go get it.
Right.
Well, maybe what you're actually doing is not identifying funding, that you're, like maximizing opportunities, or you're,
You want as many shovel-ready projects as
Yeah.
possible.
Right,
right.
You're ready to jump on it.
Try to see as much money you can for all different.
I don't know how to say that, but
See what
that's
comes-
really what we're doing, is we're
Comes forth,
we're sort of monitoring for opportunities that feed into the projects we want to do.
What do you think, Sandy? This kind of says it.
Yeah, but if you have those different projects that you feel are important.
We don't
you
know
feel
what would be a
important.
good fit for what
Yeah.
funding source or
Mm.
anything. So I think this says it.
Okay.
How do you feel about this page?
Well.
It's looking pretty good.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good.
I-
What was the only thing I had was that park and recreation? Over under transportation, goal H, number 2, the town would refine the road rating system to include trails. I kind of thought this was something we'd already done.
It is. It's a road servicing dock, I believe, is what we discussed.
Say, continue to refine?
Mhm. But what it's saying there is to include trails, because right now we don't. So we would have to look at
Okay.
easements, to see if there was room for a trail.
Okay.
I thought when we were talking about roads, that was something we were already doing, to including trails
I
without
don't-
roads.
Well, I don't think we really discussed that when we were out on our look around at roads. I don't know that
Well,
we.
you did include
did-
some mentions of it
Well,
were
we
made.
We
but-
discussed drainage.
Well, we did when we were looking at roads, but when we've been in here, I thought when Norton came in every time, it was a plan that we'd always, as roads were done, that we would work on having trails go along with it.
We talked about it as it relates to Horton and Square H
And this may come
Because,
before.
yeah.
later.
and Venus.
Right, because
Fine, to
that
be
is a,
honest.
right now, we have a trail to nowhere. So we
Right.
talked about that connecting.
Right.
But when we're looking at other roads, we need to look at, is there room for a trail?
Right.
Does
Well-
the town have a right-of-way route?
Well, do we need rating and both rating and prioritizing? And I was thinking maybe if we say refine the rating system used to evaluate roads to include trails.
And I think the criteria that paving priority list didn't say specifically trail. It was,
Right.
school bus route, connectivity,
Mhm.
fugitive dust, stuff like that.
Right,
Yeah.
well, it was how we would prioritize the road, but long before we talked about priority roads, we talked about trails being part of our roads as they were put in. It might have been before any of these three were on here, but I remember, I don't remember the time, but I can remember having this discussion quite a few times, and so, I don't know. I thought it was already something that was part of our,
You could flip this around too and say the town will include the feasibility of trails as part of the system used to evaluate roads for improvement. So we're going to, roads where it's possible, you have two roads you can improve. They're about equal in terms of traffic and expense of improving those roads, but one of them gives you connectivity of trails and the other one doesn't. That becomes part of your rating system. So it's just flipping it around. The town will include the feasibility of trails in the system it uses to rate roads for improvement.
right, I like that.
That sounds good.
Say it one more time. Town will include,
The town will include the feasibility of trails in the system it uses to rate roads for improvement.
in the system,
Or you could say the system it uses to prioritize roads for improvement.
prioritize roads for improvement.
Trails may not be feasible on some of them.
I thought this was talking about some way to
No,
reduce trails.
No.
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 The right trail, and actually, the bullet below it says town will refine the road rating system to include trails. That pretty much says it all.
Yeah, and this is under transportation. This isn't under recreation. And we already have numerous objectives and strategies for Parks and Rec to
Recreation.
develop a master plan that I assume is going to include some way they evaluate the trails, right? That's what they do.
But for your roads,
Yep.
As you put in roads, it's different.
a trail evaluation when you evaluate an overall road.
Right, that's
Yeah.
one of the things you
That's
put
different.
into the mix.
So we'd say, we think West Venus should be a priority for improvement because of the mid-school. Oh, and by the way, it's a great place to connect the trail to Horton.
Right.
And then we ask Parks and Rec, what kind of trail does that have to be? Does it have to be hard surfaced? Should it be gravel? Should it just be dirt?
That's where we never got to that development review guide
Yeah,
for road design.
right. And on that particular road, we have an easement problem, but that's where, some of this comes out of a conversation between P and Z and Parks and Rec and
So
I-
the sentence you mentioned, would that be instead of the objective or the strategy?
that would be the strategy.
So instead of town will refine the roads rating system
Yep.
to include trails. Okay,
Yep.
so I'm going to strike it through.
Yeah, because the overarching objective is to improve roads. And then a strategy is, oh, by the way, while we're improving roads, let's look at each one for the possibility of trails.
Great. I did catch one more thing on goal F, objective 5, so right above transportation and goal G. The town will prioritize recreational facilities projects and identify funding for prioritized projects. Some have multiple, so if you'd like, I can replace this with what we did with the other one. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
The same strategies do serve multiple goals and objectives.
Right.
So they've been placed under the appropriate one, but they sometimes appear more than once.
Yeah, I don't know how, reading the objective, I don't know how those play together. So what we want to know is the feasibility of what we consider to be probably expensive water recreation. And then under it, we say the town will prioritize projects and identify funding.
So the goal with this statement is, that I think is better captured under the way we said it over here, I'll have to find it, is, well, like any other project, it will have to be evaluated for merit and then prioritized accordingly. So if a water project turns out to be too expensive and infeasible or whatever, then it won't win out over other projects. It will be in the mix of projects that will be evaluated for feasibility.
I know, when I look at this, though, I think if what you did was this strategy, you'd be no closer to knowing if you could afford a water recreation project or not.
But if it's one of the projects that is identified,
Yeah,
and then funding is identified accordingly if it is a priority. So it would be replaced with the action strategy
Mhm.
bullet point under objective 4.
maybe we need a second one. It's like, who's going to do the legwork? Does somebody call communities that have water projects or, or water recreation, or, I don't know.
We're,
We're back on
go left,
recreation, or-
objective 5, yeah.
Okay, we came back to recreation.
It's okay, I mean, we can leave it like this, I just think,
I think it's really important to put something about a feasibility study, because everybody on their survey have something about water. I mean, it may never happen, but just to say in a feasibility study, at least it shows the people who did the survey that we would at least look at it.
Right.
You know, just
You're gonna
look at it.
contract with
Yeah,
somebody?
but it
Who's gonna
doesn't
do the
say we're gonna
feasibility?
do it.
who's going to do it?
We would look for, I think we would form a committee, kind of like we did this one for this comp plan.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, just,
I know, I guess the question I'm asking is, do we have the expertise here in-house to do that? And if we don't, then who's going to do it?
The feasibility of the swimming pool?
Or,
Probably not. Unless you have some opinions.
a giant slip and slide?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that could be a committee of the Park and Recreation.
right. Say it again, who's doing it?
Parks and
Like
Rec?
in Park Recs do that.
Maybe that's all we need, is just a second bullet under this that says,
Because we don't,
Parks and Rec.
The Parks and Rec Board?
yeah.
we don't
Parks and Rec
identify
will-
who's going to do it.
will,
Contact the statute.
Sure.
Tell you that it's fairly recent.
Parks and Rec will, research
Well, the Parks and Rec
issue.
Board should take that on.
The board could take that on, yeah. But the Parks and Rec Board could do that. That's
Absolutely, I
something
think
they
we should
could
call
do.
out the board.
Okay, so it could read, do you want me to replace the first one
Mm-mm.
with that one, or just take it out and replace it with Parks and Recreation Board will?
Well, we
Conduct
don't-
a feasibility, or
We don't say
research.
P and Z is going to do this or this, we haven't said that on any of these others, who exactly is going to do it. But, so it's sort of assumed,
You
I
could
think, on
say
some
Town of
these
Edgewood.
things.
Yeah.
Just say Town of
We were
Edgewood,
just
and
saying
they'll-
the town, we'll have to figure out who that.
town
what
can
group it is.
delegate it appropriately.
It'll turn out to be staff if you just say the town.
But we've done that on all of these. To me, that's one of the big problems with this. We don't say who really, what group, is it going to be P and Z? Is it going to be Park and Recreation? We're not saying that in any of these things we're doing. So how's anything ever going to get done? We don't say who specifically is going to really do this.
Well, the governing body will decide at that point, I think.
Well, whoever does it, I guess, as I look at it, I would think you don't need that first bullet point because it's earlier on and we don't need to talk about funding again.
Okay.
But somebody needs to be doing research, making phone calls, whoever that is, town or Parks and Rec. That's probably a more reasonable strategy than make a priority of the funding, even though we don't know what it is.
Right. How would you like it to read?
Well,
Town will?
my fellow commissioner doesn't like naming Parks and Rec. So I guess I would say that the town will delegate appropriate personnel to investigate.
That's what the whole thing.
I know. Well,
And
Well, I think too that you do want to be careful about getting too specific in this
Right.
document about who's doing what, because that will tie you down.
then just say the town. Sure, town will investigate.
Various water recreation options for the community.
Sure, and you know where to delegate it.
And I was just wondering if you just eliminate the objective 5 and put that, and make that objective 5 an actual strategy.
Oh, no, water park has to have its own thing.
Well, and I think in part because we all felt that the feasibility of
Right.
it was very unlikely.
Right, but people feel strongly about it.
Now there's something that we looked at for town council.
There's a group of people that really, really wants it, and there's some of us who think it's going to be expensive. So it probably needs to have its own objective.
Well, and this is also talking about water recreation, so even though
Yep.
the pool was the original concept, was the same, it could be a lot of splash
Yep,
pads,
yep.
anything.
Something more feasible, for sure.
To be a fishing pond at the wastewater treatment plant.
because if you don't put this in here, people will think the survey didn't mean anything.
Right.
So how
Yeah.
about this? I agree that it's worth pulling out because it was brought up quite a few times.
Yep,
And it ranked very highly on write-in comments as well. Town will investigate the feasibility of various water recreation options.
yep. Sounds great.
I like that.
Okay.
Was that a strategy? That was the objective, right?
This was the strategy.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
Under the objective of determine the feasibility of water recreation options.
Perfect. We determine the feasibility by,
By saying someone will determine the feasibility.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to revisit the conceptual design of section 16.
How come? It came up a lot, so during a lot of the public meetings, the public, and it just kept being thrown around where the town would put various things. And section 16, it kept coming back as the place to
Mhm.
put everything, unicorns, what have you. And so, I think conditions have changed on section 16 since the master plan, so the consensus seemed to be, let's at least reevaluate what needs to be on there, because it doesn't match up with the master plan anymore.
One thing that I'm trying to do is the concept was very high on the staff. So maybe it's like, there's enough here now, and let's see what we can do with it.
I
What kind
think,
of a-
yeah, it seems like the town knows what it wants to use it for a little better now.
Right.
yeah.
And the other thing with Section 16 master plan is I think that the road planning was a little bit sparse. It needs to be beefed up. Otherwise, you're going to have congestion problems. So, and that would be a shame to have that element left out.
Mayor, did Santa Fe County turn us down on the snow removal idea? Didn't they turn us down on the snow removal idea?
Once you turn down, it just would take care of what we can, the way we can. Yeah,
Okay.
He intended to get it out in about January.
Okay.
Yeah, they said we're doing what we can from where we can. Thank us for our offer, place to station equipment, so we're going to take care of it.
Okay.
Does that affect our snow removal thing?
Yeah, I just saw that and I thought
Full
that,
eye.
I don't know if we should have that on there because I don't know that there is coordination to be done.
So we've already got an answer on that, is what you're saying.
As appropriate, I mean, conditions could change in the future
Sure.
where there's a more
That's true.
connected role
Yeah.
to play.
That's good to say.
Okay.
A few more feet of snow when we work with National Guard.
Yeah,
Calling it
that's
in.
true.
Anything on public safety, economic development? I know we're pretty careful on that language.
Yeah, they look good.
And then housing is the last one. Again, all this language has been vetted and re-vetted with you guys quite a bit, so it shouldn't be too surprising.
Can you remind me what New Mexico Main Street is? I forgot what it,
What is the level of, not quasi-government, but like they're an organization that,
They're state.
they're state?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really sort of connected to the development part of the state. Yeah. And they've got different levels of Main Street, the frontier town, the rural communities, the district started, and we have some assistance.
And I believe they have assistance, I believe communities pay no user services, or what is the designated, I'd have to double check, but I could if you want me to.
just for my,
Right. More commercial. That's how Mountaineers did some of their Main Street. They did in the frontier. Main Street, and that's Yeah, there's things that the town has to do, I think, different borders or something. There's some things. Yeah. Right. Maybe the
Trees kind of sprouted out a little bit.
Yeah.
Once he was cut there the other day, he just go alongside my downtown.
Dastardly Edgewood trees.
Anything else stand out to you all before we move forward?
What, I do have a question on the public safety goal J. I think it's not the last page, but there is a strategy, town will pursue development of an emergency plan that is consistent and coordinated with Santa Fe County and other entities where appropriate. I'm not sure, what is the word consistent in there for? Consistent with what?
You want to make sure that any other jurisdiction's plans, that it doesn't conflict and overlap in a strange way that won't serve anybody or will confuse everyone involved.
You don't want to conflict with
So kind
what's
of reaching
Senate.
out to check about the congruence of different plans while you're doing it.
So is say consistent with other jurisdictions? Other entities?
Yes, it is a little hanging out by itself. Town will pursue the development of an emergency plan that is coordinated with Santa Fe County and other entities, let's see. Well, that is consistent with the county and other entities. Linda.
Where's the wordsmither?
I think that came from Mr. Carpenter, that wording.
Okay. Well, it makes sense when you explain it, but I think as read, unless you were there for the discussion, it
Yeah.
doesn't really.
How about this? Town will pursue the development of an emergency plan that is coordinated with Santa Fe County and other entities where appropriate and is consistent with their policies. With these plans.
With their plans.
Mhm.
Maybe just a couple of sentences of that. Town will work with Santa Fe County and others to develop
A coordinated development.
That's more, that's more imperative.
Yeah, I think so, that the group was intended for it to be coordinated in the sense that, that when an emergency happens, eventually they need to get clear information out, but there was a quick way for the town to also do it, or to get what Santa Fe County was doing today.
So that would incorporate, coordination.
How about town will coordinate with Santa Fe County and other entities where appropriate in the development of a plan?
Or consistent
But again, consistent with what? If we're gonna use,
Other emergency plans.
The
right,
plan the county has.
right,
You need to say that, consistent with other emergency plans.
right.
You're right.
Just any other? Like, I think there even needs to specify.
Maybe other regional plans.
It could be state.
Yeah.
Could be state.
State or regional plans?
Mhm.
So Tim has something. Go ahead and say.
How about town will pursue the development of a coordinated emergency plan that is consistent with Santa Fe County and other entities?
Okay.
All right, that equals
Should have been speaking up a long time ago.
He's just been putting red ink on everything we've been saying, and he's too kind to say so. Nice.
Say that one more time, a little slower. Town will
Oh.
pursue the development.
Of a coordinated emergency plan that is consistent, and then the rest is just the text you have with Santa Fe County and other entities.
But I would remind you that Edgewood has 3 counties. We've got Bernalillo and Sandoval counties
And
too.
other entities. Santa Fe County, we have a JPA with, so that's
Okay.
why we call them out.
Okay,
Yeah.
And
but eventually,
those other counties are probably the most forested.
Yes.
So it bears consideration.
Do we want to say with other regional entities where appropriate, or?
or say the state and other regional entities might be a catch-all.
With state and regional,
Doesn't other entities kind of cover
yeah.
other entities?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
think
general
so.
enough, yeah.
Okay, town will pursue the development of a coordinated emergency plan that is consistent with Santa Fe County and other entities where appropriate.
Then it's your county, state, whatever.
Right, that,
What did you say? Sandy? It worked.
hope it works.
Just before done, done.
On K, objective 1, this is already somewhat done, isn't it? I mean,
Okay, objective 1.
on K1, yeah, I mean,
We don't have a commercial overlay zone yet.
that part, but we already, we have one because we need to do the bullet.
Sorry, which part?
I mean, I guess we have a objective 1 so that we can put a bullet like not the first bullet. I mean, it seems like we've already done objective 1 in this town. Or maybe I'm not understanding. I mean, I know we've already voted on this, but,
Are you saying that objective 1 is not needed?
well, I just was wondering, have we not done this already, really, or?
Well, I think there's always room for more.
Especially
Like
with section
change.
Yeah.
16 appending.
Okay.
Right.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to
there's
understand it
other
a little
master
better.
plans along the area.
Well, I
so-
think we have a de facto determination by the wastewater treatment area. But that's not the same as a commercial overlay zone.
Right.
So, and as we mentioned, section 16, is outside of that, so.
Yeah.
And that's still a strong desire for the town to develop a commercial overlay zone.
Yes.
No wiggle room for look into developing, we've already looked into it. That's a priority.
Yes.
And we look at where you put the town on the hook.
Not during this budget, but maybe next year. Oh, just school districts.
Where are you again, Linda?
And
Oh, did we not, were we going to delete districts and we didn't?
Where are we,
Town will-
M number 4?
Town will work with local schools and districts, or schools collaborate?
I think schools,
Right, right.
doesn't it?
It does.
No.
It's independent.
It's not private.
Schools, then,
Schools and districts?
just schools, I think.
Schools to
Number 2
collaborate.
here?
Some of them don't have a district. Yeah,
Schools and districts.
yeah, I don't think that it's a big deal.
Yeah, plus districts could be community college districts.
Okay, added.
So we're doing schools instead?
Schools and districts, because
Oh,
we have
schools and
schools
districts,
that are
okay.
independent of districts, but also the schools can act independently of districts where there are some.
Okay,
So we're adding everybody.
okay.
I know we're not answering this, but in objective 4, the town will seek ways to provide GED programs in Edgewood. Again, how would we go about just speculating, determining who would work on that? The education,
I'm looking into it right now, and actually, New Mexico doesn't require that you take a class. Some states do. However, the test is a daunting, something like 500 questions.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, 90 minutes just for the science section. They say the math section is the real killer. So what we're probably looking at with this strategy is to provide GED study programs or study classes.
Prep class.
Yeah, prep classes.
GED prep classes?
Yeah, preparatory
For
classes.
prep programs?
Yeah, prep programs.
Or remind them when we go to the council that we may have to be looking for volunteers in the community to actually help do some of these projects. There's no way the staff
Definitely.
and committees, the ones we have now, can do all this, you know.
And just looking around, it looks like a lot of this is provided by NMSU and UNM and YDI, and there are a lot of people who do these things, but not that many hits around here. I can talk to Tom Sullivan and get some information about what happens in Moriarty.
Tom's not there.
Yeah, I know, but I've been in touch with him by email now and then. I have some connections in the district there and can ask them what they know about it. Well, my neighbor for 20-something years was the president of the school board, so, yeah, he's in Ohio now.
Do you know what it would take to be set up as a testing venue? Would that
The
be a-
test is not online, it's a live test.
So you have
You
to
can
have proctors.
study online, but you can't take the test online. So I can look into that, but,
Is it, going into like the C&M Workforce Training Center is pretty onerous.
yes.
We better put that in here, let it out for a little bit.
Yeah.
Very specific.
Call him
At
out.
absolutely no cost to the town of Edgewood. And summers only.
Housing?
I think it's funny that this is one of the shortest ones we
I
have.
But
know.
it was such a big topic.
So
to talk
we're going to
about.
have a lot of recreation, but no houses. We're all going to live in tents. I guess that's it. We've been that successful.
Well, these are pretty big statements here, though.
They are.
Population
They are.
growth in Edgewood, it really boomed over the 10 years leading up to the recession, but
Yep.
it boomed a lot. So I feel like there's, from what I was looking at in the data, a lot of services catching up to development. So there are a lot of funds.
Yeah, these all look good. Full spectrum of residential lot sizes is, I know. Makes sense. All of these make sense. Design standards.
These are big statements, though. Might not be many words, but
That's
big
true.
statements.
So I have my official edit version scribbled that I will, I can update and get to you tomorrow.
Okay, it'll go in the packet for 5th.
Great, and then tomorrow I can get with you about a memo that the council can read through prior to looking at this and say, all right, we're going to start prioritizing different timeframes for things, and in addition to some word edits that they feel that's appropriate.
Mayor, can I ask one thing about the housing? And I hate to open this can of worms, but under Goal O, Objective 1, where you say allow limited multiple housing units, what does limited mean in this context? I mean, is that
It
is that
means-
definable?
Not skyrise apartments. But
Okay.
we have not defined it as such.
Okay, so this doesn't mean limited in the number of units allowed for, but limited in design, then? A design limitation?
I believe limited multiple housing units may have been referring to secondary dwelling units and things like that.
Okay.
Or small-scale multifamily, or, there was a lot of talk of, we're not doing huge apartment complexes and things like that.
Limited out of it.
I think that can be interpreted in a number
Yeah,
of
limited is
ways.
kind of confusing word.
Well, I think the discussion that we had was a lot of people didn't want a lot of,
This
so
is
that,
right
that's their
against it,
fear.
because integrate with your other neighborhoods.
But we're not wording it quite right, I don't think.
Look at this, maybe small the attempt to talk about, or to create a way for cluster housing to exist.
I think so.
Not specifically.
I think this was more
I see that,
towards
but I
townhouses,
don't get the point of the
duplexes,
word limited.
apartments.
It's not a clear word.
Well, and it's modifying housing units. So it looks to me like you're saying you're limiting the number, and I don't think that's, I mean, that's
Yeah,
not
integrate
feasible.
may be enough to cover it. If things around this area in town are not 7 stories, then the multiple housing units are not 7 stories.
Right.
And remember, when we're talking about the objective, that would be an amendment to that
Yeah.
other strategy.
Well, maybe we can make it clear in the strategy.
Which can be done because staff had recommended one other amendment, so it would be a single action.
Well, I don't,
Well, sneak the hyphen into the strategy.
yeah.
Well, is there an English major in the
Just
room
really
who
want
can
to-
help us?
One with a hyphen, trying to kill me?
But yeah, I would, I would like to limit going in and amending the stuff that's
Yeah.
already been. I don't
We
want
have
to
to
go
leave
too
that
far with
alone.
that.
Yeah.
Let's just deal with it in the
Try
strategies.
to make it clear in the strategy what
Yes.
we mean.
Mr. English major, we invite your suggestions here on how to.
Okay,
Well, you could add to the strategy too and say like in designated areas of town. Or, I
Right.
don't know.
So
Specifically
the-
for objective 1, is what you're looking at?
Action under here does not refer to limiting the amount. What it
Okay.
refers to is
The action
working
here.
to create design standards to help new units integrate.
Okay.
So that's the action for that. And
I
I don't
think
know if
that-
that helps.
Okay.
Sure. Unless you said something like allowable
Right.
multiple housing units, but it's probably fine.
Yeah.
And and I think the meaning is the new ones, rather
Right.
than we will force new ones everywhere.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But where there are new ones, they will be integrated.
They'll
Right.
adhere to the way we want to do it.
Am I hyphenating it or not?
I'd say hyphenate.
What'd you say? Would you say hyphenate?
I would say hyphenate, yes.
You're allowed to in the strategy, right?
Do you want the other one hyphenated? We are making that other amendment. So it would be a very simple,
Sure, if you
Yeah.
As
have
well.
to amend, do them both.
I can't have that next to it. Since we're being super meticulous about this. Okay. Last thoughts on this? And I'll leave you alone
No, you won't.
until the next decision.
Until the next agenda item.
I said it would be a brief respite.
I think it's more a matter of us leaving you alone than
Right,
leaving
yeah.
us alone.
Well, and it's, after several months, it looks different.
Yeah.
I see things I didn't see.
Yeah,
True.
no, it's nice to have a fresh pair of eyes.
Well, and every time, we think we have it pretty clear, and then it goes into a large discussion in a weekend workshop, and it comes out looking different.
Right.
And you have to massage it into place again.
And then you make everyone happy with one sentence at a time and move on, and then you look and go, that was not English.
Yeah. Is that it?
Okay, I will get this to you tomorrow morning.
Okay.
With my changes.
Yes, they need to take action.
Can we take a
Just
short
send it to
bathroom
town
break?
council.
Yeah. Let's take a short recess, and we'll resume.
Okay.
Because he was over off busted up Soul and they asked me to change it. So it was probably him.
Yeah. Hard to think this hard.
All right. We're done with our break. We're going to go back in session here, and we need a motion and a second and a vote on sending what we just re-wordsmithed on to council for them to take a look at and hopefully approve. So whenever you guys are ready.
I move that we send to council the goals and objectives for the a Town of Edgewood comp plan for, to be finalized. Or strategies, yeah.
As a,
And okay, that we send, let me start over. Okay, I move that we send the Town of Edgewood Comprehensive Plan strategies to council for approval,
as amended tonight? Or as discussed tonight?
as discussed tonight, with a couple amendments. I think we have a couple amendments on the goals.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second. Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. On to the next item, that is another item that intricately involves Mr. Cog. Discussion of an industrial plan zone. What we've been working on for a while is zone designated for light industry. So who's going to start? Tanya, do you need to fill us in, or are they going to jump right in?
Well, so just quick background. When Commissioner Turner asked me to send it to, Sandy and Maida to see, if they saw anything glaring, I did. And they found some glaring things. So they are here tonight to help us work those things out.
Okay.
So, yes, and so we started looking through it, and I have my scribbles.
Oh.
But then we kind of saw a few places where we needed to make sure we knew exactly what the intention was for this before we write it to fit that, because I think there were a lot of different intentions in here.
Mhm.
So Tanya asked me to piece out a couple different things just to talk about them, to make it very clear, and then I think it might be more clear what's intended or should be intended. So there were a few things being thrown around. One was an overlay zone for industrial, and just keeping the underlying zoning. So what that means is if you have a residential area with a historic overlay zone, for example, in an older part of town. Some communities have this, where the underlying zoning is still there, so you can have this type of house, this type of lot, whatever, but there are additional requirements on top of that, that's the overlay, that dictate maybe design standards or things like that. So the zoning stays with an additional layer of requirements. It doesn't change the underlying zoning. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So overlay zone versus zone change was one of the things
Okay.
up for discussion. Another thing was industrial park or business park versus just industrial zone. And I think there were a couple competing intentions here with industrial referring to kind of the uses and things you could do on the land, and then industrial park or business park might refer more to the way you develop in a more master planned way. And you can have both, and you can say for that zone, everyone has to develop in a certain master planned way. So things you want to think about are, two things that stood out to me reading this again today was, for business park, to me that says you have customers coming to patronize a business, a bunch of businesses in a master planned area. For industrial zone, what I picture a little more is manufacturing, so less the sale, more the manufacturing. So I wanted to take a step back and ask you all what you foresaw for this zone a little bit in that area. Does that make sense? And then we can talk about specific uses that would be good in that once we know what the intention is.
Right now, you don't have anything zoned industrial, right?
Right.
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 Well, but in fact, there was an attempt to do sort of a light industrial thing and wedge it into commercial.
Wedge it in.
Yeah, just
Mhm.
make a definition, and it's not working out.
So it was industrial, it was light industry, but it allowed for retail sale of greeting cards and daycare
Yeah.
centers and
It was,
So- So
restaurants.
you're looking for something that's strictly light industrial, some light manufacturing?
Mhm.
right.
Not so much, not commercial zone. We want the commercial to stay commercial.
And I think when we thought business park, probably in my mind, I thought, well, that's one spin on this that a developer might propose to us.
Or it could be a transitional type of a use, perhaps.
Yeah, but maybe they need to be two separate things. Um,
One thing that's great, though, about this type of master plan development is that you do want contiguity. You want to think about roads and
Mhm.
connectivity and things like that. And you guys are pretty great at that. So writing that into the zone in some way would be very helpful, especially on these huge parcels of land.
Yeah.
So thinking ahead about that is a great idea. One thing I foresee as an issue with an overlay zone is that if there are any residential or commercial, let's say a daycare, that has an overlay zone of industrial, or is now sandwiched right next to a much more intense use, that could be an issue. You kind of, industrials where Euclidean zoning still hangs on to, yeah, that separation is probably a good health and safety thing sometimes.
So when you're bringing this up, then you're saying to be careful not to allow those uses in the industrial zone, or?
Right, what I'm saying is if you have an overlay, you might have a very strange mixture of
Mhm.
uses happening.
Okay, okay.
So scratch the
Yeah.
overlay then.
Maybe we don't want an overlay
Yeah.
on this.
I don't think we do then.
Well, it's like different than having a downtown overlay
Right.
in an area that's already commercial.
And you can, in your industrial zone, you can stipulate minimum sizes and
Right.
design guidelines.
Yeah.
Connectivity. You know,
Right.
You could put those those standards in there.
And we've tried to do that, and one of the things that I've been particularly interested in is buffering.
Yeah.
And we found a really good policy document from Overland Park, Kansas, where they talk about not only existing other uses, but future development that's not industrial. How is, how is the industrial development that you're doing today, how will that be a neighbor for perhaps future residential developments to come in? So.
So mitigating effects of various uses.
Right, like, for one thing, restricting traffic from the industrial zone, that they can't go through subdivisions, for example. That they have thoroughfares that are designated to serve the area, so. It may be too ambitious, I don't know.
The last thing that stood out to us as a potential issue with the overlay is that if you want to signal to investors and landowners that this area is designated for industrial, as kind of a come develop here, this is an intention for the area, having an overlay zone is much softer and a little weirder to finagle. So it might not be quite as inviting.
Okay. Well, that was another concern I think that we had, is we don't want to do something that's going to be off-putting to potential
Yeah.
investors. That's,
So other than squashing the overlay zone, which is fine, is there anything in there that we need to fix?
I think I want to look at this again with that eye to the intention. I was looking through the uses. There were a lot of things in here, such as data analysis, surveying, engineering, wholesale nurseries, greenhouses, that seemed a little more commercial. And, I mean, allowing them is fine as permissive uses, but, see, design and analytical services, I wasn't exactly sure what that meant.
And then 20 is laboratory.
Yeah, there is a,
That's under conditional
It's under
uses. yeah.
conditional.
You didn't really get, what was it, research, experimental, something like that?
Laboratory was there from, oops, I'm sorry, from before.
experimental laboratory.
Yeah.
Sounds very cool.
And frightening also.
Yeah.
So some of the things, I pulled out some definitions for things that are typically in light manufacturing, light industrial. So here's some definitions from our definition book for atypical use for this. Industrial use is engaged in light manufacturing, packaging, storage, and distribution of products, including warehousing, wholesaling, and shipping and receiving, and scientific research, development, and training, kennel and animal hospitals, new vehicle storage, and vehicle transportation service establishments. And then contrasted with the more heavy industrial sewage treatment and disposal facilities, electric generating plants and facilities, incinerators and landfills, water purification facilities, automobile and truck body shops, junkyards, salvage yards, human and animal crematories, motor freight terminals, used motor vehicle storage, and impoundment yards and firing ranges. So things with much more noxious effects, lasting things, noise, just heavier impacts.
We didn't want any heavy industrial here.
That's one of the things that we kind of gleaned from talking to people at the workshops, that
It's
that
pretty, yeah.
they don't really want the
Not
heavy
very
industrial,
flexible.
yeah.
But just to contrast in terms of the uses you're talking about, so you
Right.
get an idea. So,
And then I guess we have to be careful under F, general requirements, item 3, development plan. A development plan showing the general layout of the proposed industrial park. You know, we're going to take that out,
right.
and then maybe what we're trying to say is general layout of what is proposed. You know, that we still want to see,
It's going to do 20 acres, right?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Did you have a, well, we had originally
That's a
looked at
minimum.
40 acres and dropped it to 20.
As
Do
a
you have
minimum.
As a minimum. Do you think that's not appropriate, Sandy, or you got
Well, I
it?
had to think about it for a while, and then I looked at some other, and what my concern was, what if someone wants
What if
Well,
they
my concern
only
was,
own
is
10
something already,
acres?
if something is already zoned industrial in town, then they have way of 5 acres, and we already have the zoning, but that's not the case, so I'm.
Right, no, we don't.
We don't even have
So
it.
I think 20 is good, and requiring that to be, at least have a development plan that shows road access, requiring that they connect with an existing road, you know, so you have
Right.
the intersection. properly.
Right. Well,
and
one,
item C above that, we talk about lot size too, I'm sorry.
exactly.
We kicked that around a bunch.
Okay.
We did, we talked about it a lot, but one of the things I kind of wanted to go back to is again with the survey of residents, is that there is a big desire that we don't, with development, we don't lose the rural character. And I think that's probably why, and we were probably misusing the idea of an overlay zone, but we were wanting to kind of restrict this to areas where they had good access to the transportation network. We also wanted a minimum size, because we didn't want pop-up industrial parks scattered all over town, because that, it seems that having that possibility would kind of go against what people have said they want the town to look
I
like.
agree. I think that's a good. I would get rid of the setbacks, though. I was looking at an ordinance,
Okay.
and it said that it be determined by the planning commission, because it's not residential.
Right.
Exactly.
And you want to come in, because if you come in with a 20-acre parcel, you carve it off, you come into the commission, you say, okay, I want to see how you're going to lay out your roads and stuff. They're going to have some lots, they're going to have spec lots, And they're gonna, you've got this, okay, this is a 10-acre parcel for your manufacturing plant or whatever. Here it's all set up for you. It's already been platted. And they may say they only want 5 acres of it or something like that. And so you don't, and not worry about those setbacks, because that's gonna be building code. Building code is gonna take care of any problems.
Where is the performance-based setback amendment to the zoning ordinance? Is the council going to be taking that up
Yeah,
soon?
that is on here. I gave you guys a list
Okay.
of ordinance statuses, and performance-based setbacks is in process, and the next step is town council.
Okay, so you're gonna actually eliminate some setbacks or,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Would that provide some guidance on buffering as well?
You have to put in buffering.
In the industrial zone? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good way to address that concern.
Yeah, what you could do, a couple different ways. You could say if the industrial zone is adjacent to a commercial or a residential, you could say that you have to have a buffering of 50 feet or 100 feet with landscaping, fencing, and then you could also have the building step back a little bit, depending on the height. You look at the heights of your building. But you want to make the height big enough for warehousing.
Yeah. So how did this buffering look to you guys?
It's minimal.
It is minimal.
So there's no, it's kind of subjective, it doesn't say what type, how big the buffer is going to be.
Mhm.
So it needs to-
Those regulations perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we thought we covered that under setback, but maybe we take setbacks out and say more about buffering.
Right. Well, I think part of it, too, is some of that we took, again, from this policy document that I found. And so that was kind of general guidelines, and we probably need to make it more specific then.
For the minimum zone size versus item C size, individual lot size and building area eligible for the M1 zone designation will be determined at subdivision based on the business need. So you're saying the overall zone that's contiguous has to be 20 acres?
Right.
That it doesn't matter what the lots are doing?
Right, the lots can be variable,
Depending on the business. that
Right,
way
and
they
the
can-
needs.
They can make it as big as the
If
business
somebody only
needs.
wants an acre, or they only have a plan for
Right.
like,
Would
2 or 3.
you want to put any requirements in this that it has to be contiguous with the adjacent properties? In some way, I'm foreseeing you have a large area of land open for development. How do you ensure contiguity? Let's see, if the 20 acres, if I take 20 acres of that and I want to master plan or make a development plan for 3 acres at a time, can I do that?
Yeah, we can phase it.
Phase it, yes.
So it would be 20 acres phased in little increments,
Mhm.
but the 20 acres has to be master planned at one spot?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Does that make sense?
yeah, I mean, the thing, it almost begs for the possibility of industrial park inside this ordinance somewhere, master plan.
Right.
That
and
that
it's-
bears
It's not a
mentioning.
bad thing, it's just might be two different things that we haven't quite teased out well.
So should we have a section that says, something that talks to a master plan? If somebody wanted to come in and do a master plan?
Would it be a
Because like in the
conditional
zoning
use?
ordinance,
Yeah.
we have the master plan portion of the zoning ordinance. So
Right,
if somebody
that's
wants
what
to do
I'm
a master
thinking.
plan.
It could be its own conditional use. You could address it there, that, master planning is a possibility.
Almost every zone category.
That's true, that's true. Yep, it is called, I think industrial is called out.
I don't know if it's called out specifically, but
Um,
almost every zone section in there is allowed.
If you call it out as a development plan, is that a different set of requirements? Like really, you just have to show the laid out?
Well, that would be under development use.
Is that-
let me look it up.
They don't do development use.
Yeah, these guys don't. We do that.
But they should do some kind of.
But a master plan would come before then.
Okay.
And presumably, they, you know, a plan like that would take 10 of the 20 acres or all 20 acres. They'd have some
Yeah, I think
big
it-
project in
I
mind.
believe the minimum lot size for a master plan now is 10 acres, correct?
In other parts of the ordinance, in zoning?
In zoning, yeah, master
So
plan.
that might
doesn't-
fit with this.
It doesn't call out industrial.
Well, because there's no industrial
Yeah,
zone,
even though we had a section of it. Yeah, you're right.
but it does call out commercials, right?
It calls out all the Rs. It calls out multi-use and special use.
So it doesn't have anything in there for commercials?
Nope.
How did Hillcrest get it?
I don't know.
Oh, previous ordinance, 2003 ordinance allowed for commercial.
Even under conditional, it's,
Just multi-use.
commercial isn't called out.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think if you call out specifically 20 contiguous acres in that zone, you must come in with a master plan, which would be 10 acres. It could all be phased, it doesn't have to happen all at once, but then also require contiguity outside of the master planned area, so me and Sandy were going back and forth about this today, but I think as much as possible, it would be great to ensure that there's some overall contiguity in this huge zone, not that you're imposing roads all over the place. But if you're developing next to one of these areas, you should need to make sure that it's contiguous in some way. The road should line up.
Right.
It shouldn't be so hectic that, you know, oh, well, I guess I have to go around all of this in order to go over here. Or, I don't
Yeah.
know how you normally address that, but.
In the same way you wouldn't want spot zoning, you wouldn't want spot problem.
Right.
However big it is, you've got to work all the way around it, it just doesn't fit in with stuff around it.
Right. So, do you have a commercial subdivision ordinance that, like, that does spec lots and?
No.
Residential, right?
It's all residential,
All
yeah.
residential, yeah.
So if someone wanted to come in and divide up,
Well, it depends if they come in with, like in that red up there, that's commercial, so if they came in with that, they'd use the subdivision ordinance, in the commercial area,
Okay.
commercial.
okay, so they would use your subdivision.
Right.
process. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. They come in and carve up.
So the zoning sets what they come in, but if it's in a residential, they come in with a residential subdivision,
Okay.
it's commercial, or even, you know, multi-use or something.
Same in industrial, right?
The subdivision tells you how big the lot's got to be, or where to put the road, and stuff like that.
Okay, so would you use the same for industrial? Okay.
That was pointed out.
Yeah.
Okay. And then use that with the master plan to make sure that you've got this 20 acres.
Right, and then within that zoning designation is certain amounts got to be left as open space, trails and stuff. I think it's got setbacks in it or something. It's got that stuff in the master plan.
Right.
Zoning designation.
Talks about a phasing schedule under the master plan.
Okay.
Yeah, that all would be great.
Mhm.
So I think the more you think about the process as you're going through this, like what would the process be? What do we need to require in order to mitigate some potential problems? Buffering, master planning, continuity. And if you want, me and Sandy could take another pass at the uses to propose what might be conditional versus permissive.
Yeah. Also, what we were going to discuss next was taking light industry, and I spoke to you guys about this. We were thinking about taking light industry out of C1 and C2.
If it has a better home now.
Yeah, and then, Sandy had suggested just putting it under conditional use, because there may be something that would fit in the commercial areas. So
Good idea.
I was gonna run it by you guys and see what you thought about that. It's
Instead
just
of
moving
pulling it out, leave it as a,
Yeah, take it from permissive, where it's at now, and home it under conditional.
I think that that would be a good thing, because that would cover the unexpected thing that doesn't really fit neatly.
If it becomes a conditional use in commercial, though, is it a 20-acre conditional use?
Is under commercial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it refer back to how we've defined
I don't
light
know.
industry?
I guess it could be.
Except if it was like, what is it, C2's 35,000,
Yeah.
square foot on a building?
You have to look at your, that, the use.
See
You know,
where it
the
fits.
issue could be that somebody could choose to put industrial all over town, anywhere commercial,
Right.
to avoid committing to the,
To the master plan
Yeah.
process.
You gotta look at the
Right.
conditional uses, what's listed there,
right.
and make sure they're not, you know, maybe not manufacturing, maybe storage units or something like that.
Well, and also, I'm seeing distilleries and breweries as a conditional use in here, and those can be compatible with commercial.
Right.
Yeah.
They aren't always, sometimes they're much bigger facilities, but that could be a conditional use in there.
Manufacturing though, what they're using now, is all, you know, you might want to think about, okay, maybe that just doesn't belong in the commercial, even as conditional use.
Right, so maybe limit the uses that would be allowed conditionally in a commercial area. So,
And we just really want to stay away from big trucks, you know, being on the commercial areas and
Well-
blocking traffic and
Right.
tearing up the roads or whatever.
well, and things that are just going to overwhelm, like pedestrian traffic in, small shop areas, or impinging on, residential areas in places where you've got, some small commercial and then residential. You don't want to plop a truck terminal in there.
With respect to wastewater, would putting light industry in commercial zones become a problem? Do we still get the same level of development review when somebody proposes something light industrial in a commercial zone?
We would, because
Okay.
it would be conditional use.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we can still look at that list of any chemicals they might be producing, or,
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So-
there was uniform services in here, and I wanted to make sure we knew if it was dry cleaning or not dry cleaning, because that comes with a lot of chemical use, right?
We had Mike in here in the last meeting from wastewater, and he went through each of these and explained to us, what could be harmful and stuff, so, yeah.
And he
I
would,
think
be-
not.
yeah,
not dry cleaning.
no, he's,
But a laundry service, like.
Exactly.
uniform.
right,
Right.
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 Do you want me to say not dry, or do you want to say not dry cleaning? Because that might be.
I guess we
Probably
Spell
best to
out what you
specify,
need.
yeah.
Yes, not dry cleaning.
Right.
'cause-
Because if we're having trouble remembering.
Yeah, I
the
don't
meaning
think-
of the
we don't
thing
want
that
dry
said-
cleaning.
Yeah.
No.
Not on a large scale, like in a light industrial zone.
So if we drop the overlay zone concept, it sounds like what we really need to do is tease out the uses and the process.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay.
And we need to define what data analysis is.
Is.
If you want an overlay zone, I think I can create one for you. I've been talking to Linda. and So what I was asking Linda was the height, find out the height of the building for industrial use. It's a problem that we'll impact.
Right.
Buildings down there, that maybe cabinets and stuff off the interstate.
Right.
You're having trouble finding a new occupant because it's not tall enough
Ah,
for like a big, trucks.
We've had our 40-foot limit.
that's right.
We would have to have a new height for this.
But this is what I'm thinking. If you did the industrial zones for the 500 acres or whatever you're going to do, then you put the overlay over, an overlay zone over the top of that that says, in the center, you can have taller buildings, but on the perimeter, if you're residential, then maybe is where you say, that's what overlay zone is for.
Right, right.
Okay.
Would that be overlay or part of the buffering process? I feel like it could live either
It
place.
might be, we need to find out about the height, though.
That is going to be critical.
Because I know City of Albuquerque in their new idea, they did a lot of
Step down.
the step down. If you're next to this, then that dictates
Yeah.
how you have to step back up.
Which, and that you're true, because then if you say that, then that's gonna force the taller buildings away from the
Periphery, yeah.
That's a really, and because we might need to increase the height really for industrial use.
Right.
It might be taller buildings, but if they start at a lower height, you know, it's ground,
Sure.
you don't get the same outcome of they all the way right down.
Right.
But we just, when you look at heights, though, I'm just real concerned, I wanna make sure you don't price yourself right out at the roof already.
Yeah. Well, thank you, because that's what we were concerned about.
You know, we had crit a zone, and then there's nobody who wants to be there because we've got bad ordinance.
I'm sure you'll hear about it. You'll be able to, nothing will be perfect. You can keep working on it until it happens.
Well, we'd kind of like something, I know I've had some feedback and some information over the years that people actually do come to the town website and they do read our ordinances. And so I'd like something that would at least prompt them to say, hey, this might work, let's give them a call. And I don't want something to say, these people don't know what they're doing, forget about them. I don't want to go there, so.
Any general questions about any of this stuff or things you weren't sure about in here?
The thing that keeps jumping out at me in the development plan is open space.
Yeah, that's.
Do we need open,
Capitalized, that's why it's jumping out at you.
do we need open space, 3 miles from the center of town in an industrial zone?
Well, as
I-
a buffer?
Well, I don't know what
Yeah.
we need to define it.
Use open space for detention ponds,
Okay.
Okay.
maybe do some landscaping there.
But only for drainage purposes, or,
Yeah,
what's the
drainage.
purpose of the open space?
Well, I think we need to define it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the idea is the industrial zone land is gonna be higher value.
Right.
So if you're starting to, yeah, I think you should have some paths and trails and so people can, if you go to like the Santa Teresa, telling me about the Santa Teresa and the southern part of Mexico, they've got sidewalks and lighting and, so the workers can walk
Mhm.
around in their lunch hours, ride their bikes or, so it's, and they've got landscaping and it's a nice, it doesn't feel like this,
Right, you don't
Right.
have to create a doom and zoom,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
Like a bad video
So I
game.
think you could incorporate a lot of that, in maybe into some landscape requirements.
Right.
Incorporate the detention ponds.
See, and I'm wondering if some of the basic stuff where we talk about, development plan, locations of streets, building locations, utility easements, parking lots, landscaping, but then we talk about landscaping again under buffering. Do some of these other things, open space, sidewalks and such, is that part of a master plan under this zone rather than a general requirement?
Oh, I see.
Because right now it's in general requirements.
Okay.
Are we going to dictate that anyone who builds in this 20 acres must set aside open space?
I think they should.
It would have that if it was done over the master plan.
Right.
But what would they use the open space for?
Right.
That's what I'm thinking. If it's not a master
Yeah.
plan, if it's a 1 acre,
Right.
Oh, the
Deal.
1 acre. Well,
2 acres,
We're talking about 20 acres that are flat, right?
So the 1 acre would be developed as part of the master plan, though, so.
So they'd have a
somewhere
piece
in
of it.
that
no, but not
20
everything is a
acres-
master plan. If somebody says, I want to develop a business on 2 acres of your 20 acre zoned industrial area, and that's all they want to do, are we going to require them to designate open space?
You're not going to allow that, right?
I don't think so, because I think what we'll have is just a bunch of bleh. We won't have anything
Okay, so
that
we're
looks
talking about
planned.
anybody who develops in there must take all 20 acres.
Yeah.
Okay,
And at least plan for that area.
Well,
They'll
Yeah.
have a plan,
Conceptual plan.
yeah,
but they
Yes.
don't build it
Yeah.
all
So
at
there-
once.
Right.
there
All
would
right.
be
high piece of one corner.
Right.
But he's got to have a plan for the other 18 acres.
Right.
That's not quite the way we talked about it last time. But, yeah, we can do that.
In the long run, a lot easier for the owner of those properties to find tenants.
Oh, yeah.
It's an appealing environment.
Right.
It's important to the town, it's also important to the landlord.
I can see developers saying, okay, I'll come in my 20 acres, I'll start with the 20 acres, and here's the road, and I'll come in and I'll show the spec ad, the spec lots, and I'll make sure the roads are there, and any kind of, whatever the requirements, it's all laid out. So a company can say, okay, I want lot 2.
But you're gonna need someone for pictures to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then everything under this is a master plan.
It basically is. Well, and I think,
Right. But he's gonna show them, demonstrate that this is what it would look like.
right. Well, I think one of the things, too, is that Edgewood has quality of life that we can pitch to prospective businesses that are moving out of some very high regulation states. They're looking for places to go. And, the quality of life isn't just where the workers will be living, it's where they're working, too. And so I think that this is something that could be feasible, so.
I mentioned this community and another nearby community. The nearby community was immediately dismissed because of the way it looks and the lack of employing more people. So it was immediately into the top of that.
Right.
And because of the people that immediately have a place to work this night, we need to have
Linda, do you think anyone would fall at 20 whole acres or half the master plan? Like, is that a normal requirement?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because just a little while ago, we said 10 acres must be contiguous. We were talking like it was okay to do a master plan
Well-
within the 20. But maybe we need to say the minimum is 10.
That's what it already says in the master plan.
Not this one. This says minimum,
Well,
No, this
the
one-
master plan zone category.
right,
Master plan,
right, residential.
it's 10 acres.
Well,
Yeah.
it-
10, oh, that's what the master plan says, because this kind of really is a master plan.
It is.
I don't see how we can really do it any other way.
Maybe it needs to be 10
So
instead of 20.
do we take bits and pieces of the master plan that would actually fit so we don't get everything allowed in this area? Take bits and pieces of the master plan that we already have, because I was reading and some of it would fit really nicely in here, and then just have another section that says master plan, and then just lay out what fits from there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't sound like the other master planning process would quite fit exactly, then that's fine to just tell them what, as long as it's easy to see, all right, I want an industrial zone thing in this area, this is the clear process. Nobody minds looking in a different place as long as it's a very clear process, I think.
All right.
So now, if this is a master plan, either 10 or 20 acres minimum, and you're allowing light industry in commercial zones, anyone who wants to do a smaller industrial operation is going to do it in your commercial zones.
That's true.
Yep, that's what you really got to look at that.
So what do you
Yeah.
want? You have to
I don't consider
decide.
commercial, that's reasonable.
But the beauty of it is it would be under conditional, whether
Right.
that light industry would fit in the commercial, because there may be some things that do.
Well, I think one thing, too, is that part of the criteria for allowing a hearing on conditional use would be that you have your buffering, you have to have a finding that there's not going to be negative impact on the...
And you can
the
specify
roads,
that
yeah.
in here for
Right.
things that you need to find
Right.
true before you can, yeah.
You know, we need to keep in mind that we are a town that has all of our industrial, most of it, clustered along 2 highways with one way to get in and out of all of them.
Yeah.
And in industrial uses that are not convenient to those highways would be problematic. I think that'd be another way that you could kind of dampen
Yeah.
Because,
Some are just not going to fit in the commercial area.
Right, and access should be a consideration there.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
because we've got quite a bit of commercial land up north on 344, don't we? A good node around, commercial
Um,
zone on Frost and 344.
We've got a chunk up there on Frost that was
You remember
an
that
odd
one?
decision.
Yeah.
Don't remember that.
Under commercial now, does it just say industrial uses as a blanket statement?
It just says light industry,
So-
and it's under permissive on both C1 and C2.
I don't think you have to allow, I don't think you have to say under conditional any light industry. I mean, you could pick and choose what you think would be appropriate and just put that in there instead of light
Okay.
industry.
Okay.
Because that's super vague.
Yeah,
Yes.
it
Yeah, it's
is.
pretty much undefined in the commercial.
Yeah.
So you don't have to just say, well, we might allow everything, and it would be up to the commission at the time to say yes or no to whatever. You can just say, yeah, a brewery of
Yeah.
this size or whatever. is
That's all it
commercial.
says in the commercial zone, light industry.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't
Or
define it in
permissive.
any
That
way.
list.
I would at least
No.
define that in that sense.
Yes, there is a definition, but it's not that great.
It's just above sexually oriented businesses. It's only allowed in one section of town. It's common. Yeah, it is a permissive use, and it's,
Out of the industrial.
do we have the definitions? You have them.
Yeah, let's see.
How's light industry defined?
Thank you
Light
for
industry. Light industry means wholesale and warehousing uses, as well as those light industrial uses that include fabrication, manufacturing, assembly, or processing of materials that are in industrial uses, of materials that are in a refined form and do not in their transformation create smoke, gas, odor, dust, noise, vibration of earth, soot, or lighting to a degree that is offensive when measured at the property line of the subject property. Examples of light industries include, but are not limited to, the manufacturing or assembly of clothes, shoes, furniture, consumer electronics, and home appliances.
Yeah, I don't think that's very vague. I mean, that's better
No.
than the cookie cutter one that I found. So that's fine, but maybe it doesn't fit exactly in commercial.
Right.
And you could just specify some uses, and you could say like uses or something.
Right. Well, as I recall, when this was added into the zoning ordinance, the original proposal was to actually have a separate zone category, but that didn't happen. They just shoehorned the definition into commercial, so.
Okay, well, we can flesh this out a little more,
Okay.
add some master plan language in there.
Well,
And-
yeah, and what you might do is move it under conditional use and define it the same way in C1, we've defined small-scale processing associated with a commercial business establishment, provided that all processing conducted within a building, we go into much greater detail. So just move it under and
Yeah.
go into detail.
Right. So the commercial portion, that's a pretty easy fix.
Okay.
In part of the buffering concept, is there anything on facades on buildings that face out?
In a general way, but I don't think it's been fleshed out enough.
Just meaning that, if you're on an exterior zone and the buildings are visible to the community areas around it, maybe benefits of top.
Right.
Middle building is industrial.
Right.
Do we still have those things we teased out of the Overland Park stuff? That, I think it dealt with that, but I don't know that we transferred it over here.
No, I don't think we did. Let me see if it's still on my zip drive. Looks like that's the only one that I brought out was that one. So we can find that again and,
Oh, yeah, they always have at least two plans that go on.
I'll look for your email again. We'll
Now,
bring it
that's,
to the
that's
next
okay.
meeting.
Cheryl just mentioned, we'll probably want to look at some design standards, especially for the periphery, the buildings that are
Yeah.
facing them. Because I know the stuff in Overland Park just said, you'll do it, but there were no specifics in that.
Right.
Because it's a policy statement. It's more goals and objectives than it was an ordinance, so.
So we've kind of strayed into the next agenda item at the
Right.
same time.
Yeah.
Do we want to wrap this one up and then see if we need to do anything with the other one?
I think that what we already discussed was that I was going to discuss anyway. So I think
right.
we can I'll move that over
Okay.
with some language on it, and then we can take a look at both this and the commercial one at the next meeting. I think with the commercial one, we can make that one an action, discussion/action.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that'll be pretty fast. And then I'll send some stuff, maybe in between everybody, we can throw some ideas out before the next meeting, so
So
we're
we'll
not
move light
reinventing the
industrial down under conditional uses and define it
Yeah.
in the ordinance.
Mhm.
And we probably want to make sure that definition squares with what we're, not completely with what we're working up
Yeah,
for what is going to be a master plan zone.
yeah. Okay.
Oy.
The Master
Okay.
plan industrial zone.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been
Thank
feeling
you.
like it needs to be a master plan all along.
All right. So then we don't need to move on to discussion item 6,
Covered that.
commercial zones, because we've kind of covered it. So that brings us to public comment. Anybody want to comment? The same old crew. No?
We've probably covered it.
We'll see you on Sunday or Friday.
Yeah,
Shannon, we'll have a commissioner workshop Friday, if you're not signed up.
Need to add one more. We're adding Tim.
All right.
You'll have so much fun.
So I'll send that.
exciting.
We just found out today.
Awesome.
Okay.
Send me your
did you have something for public comment, Ms. Burke? Are you signed in? Are you signed in for public comment? Okay. Just so we've dotted the i's.
It was just to remind everybody that this Saturday, June 1st, the Chamber is hosting our annual Chamber Chuck Wagon Mixer, which is a great opportunity for businesses and government or people that serve on committees like, or commissions like this, just to get together and interact. And so that when businesses say, what the heck are you guys doing? There's a more easy social setting to be able to say, oh, well, we're doing design standards because we want the community to stay nice. Things like that. So if you guys would like to come, the tickets are only $10 a piece, and just let me know, and I'll get it. get you
Where's it
guys on
gonna
the
be?
list.
Where and
It's
when?
actually out at Founders Ranch.
Okay.
So we have a keynote speaker, Jeffrey Candelaria, who is a business development expert, radio personality. He's a very dynamic speaker. And we'll have music, entertainment, barbecue, the whole
Oh,
thing.
and what time and what day?
5 till 8 on Saturday, June 1st.
Okay, Saturday.
I already know I'm going to be out of town. Leaving right after the meeting Friday.
So just wanted to let y'all know,
Okay.
you're always
Well,
welcome.
thank you. Thank you for the, yeah. Sounds interesting.
Just can't talk about any cases at that.
I know,
Right.
that's the problem.
Right.
Don't have any right now
Have a
that I'm aware
quorum.
of.
But even if it's going to come.
That brings us to
Thanks, ladies.
matters from the
Good night.
chair.
Thank
and-
you.
Good
Thank you,
night.
ladies.
Matters from the chair and commission members? Anything?
Thank you, Tanya.
Commissioner Huppert, anything special?
Cheryl, did you have any?
Yeah, I just want to thank Tanya for printing these. I didn't have a good current.
Yes.
I know, I needed it to study more because we've updated it so much. I didn't have a current.
Yeah.
Anything, Commissioner Turner?
Nothing?
I just want to thank whoever mowed or did whatever they did to the walking trails
Yes, it looks wonderful.
along 344. It looks a lot better. I think we have a fighting chance against the weeds.
At least for this week.
Yeah, I walked it yesterday, and it was great. Okay, so that's matters from staff is what we hit next.
Yes, so a couple of things. You guys have the ordinance statuses, that's where we're at right now. It gives you the description, the status, and then the next step. So there's a lot of coming soons. I just want to make sure you guys don't get bored. So I just keep finding things. The more I look, the more I find.
Yep.
The other thing is this reference guide for commissioners. This is what I think is the most current. And then there is an updated version that I'm not certain was ever passed or adopted. So I'm working on retyping that one because of the formatting issues, and I'm about halfway through. So I just wanted you guys to have this so you're familiar with what we're talking about. This is really, really super good. In fact, honestly, this should be at the NMLZO. I am not even kidding. I thought about sending this to them, but I wanted to get your permission first. This is pretty amazing. Yeah. So yeah, this would be an amazing training for commissioners, and I think a lot of municipalities would want to see this. This is pretty phenomenal. So, good job on this. So anyway, I wanted you guys to get familiar with this, so if you have time, read up on it, and then at the next meeting, we can go through,
It was
Yeah.
intended to be revised,
Yeah.
at least annually, and it didn't
So-
really happen.
I've never seen, I don't think I've seen this before.
it's great.
I don't think
It's
so.
pretty
I was
great.
like, kind of should have had it a long time ago. I'll look in my book, but I don't, it's in there. I don't know, I've tried to read everything, but.
The other thing, besides you've got the updated zoning ordinance now to put in your book, I wanted to run this by you. I think because of the success that the equestrian park has had, we are going to be seeing a surge of people wanting to subdivide and make manufactured housing subdivisions. I got a call today from somebody who's under contract in an area that kind of bummed me out. And it's 100 acres, and they want to make it a manufactured housing subdivision. So we really need to, everybody collectively needs to decide what they want to do about that, because I don't want Edgewood turning into one big manufactured housing community. Manufactured housing is actually what our affordable housing is right now. So it's pretty easy to get into a loan with it. So I think we're going to see a lot. We're going to really see a lot of that. So you're looking at 100 acres coming. I mean, of course, you know, it's an R2 zone. They're going to have it planned out with streets and, you know, everything that comes with that. But when I asked exactly where it was at, the conversation ended quickly. So,
The problem is state law doesn't give us much leeway, doesn't seem like.
we can handle it by zoning. So if you have a specific zone that you want to kind of keep a crowd in, now there's modulars, which is different. A modular has to be on a good foundation. We're not talking
Like a
skirting
house,
here. It's
yeah.
just like a house. But when you're talking manufactured homes, when we look at the foundation of it, we say it has to be on a permanent foundation, but what the state says is a permanent foundation and what I see in my head as a permanent foundation are two separate things. And we have to allow what the state allows. So I just wanted to put this out there because I think it's a conversation that we need to have and town council needs to have as well.
Well, two things about it. We're this close to finishing a comprehensive plan that has 3 objectives under housing. And the closest it comes to addressing what you just described is not even multiple housing units that integrate. And this is also something I think we can't address on our own. We need to know the will of council on
Right,
this.
I agree.
And we already know what was described in the survey that led to the comprehensive plan.
Right.
So,
So it's probably time for the governing body to take that up.
yeah, we're a advisory board. We make recommendations. We do a lot of legwork for them, but we are not a policy-setting
Right.
group.
Our previous conversations on this, we've had many, long before, you and I have had a lot. It sounded like you can't just zone a certain area for manufactured housing, unless it has covenants, as it say that it's going to be stick-built.
Well, it's Albuquerque, right? Isn't that what we were discussing today, Mayor?
Something like that.
You can regulate it by zone. But we're going to talk to the town attorney to make sure before we go too far.
That's different what we've talked about before.
Yeah.
I always felt we needed it, but
You do have the, what is it, R4, the manufactured housing?
Yeah, and R5 is the mixed. And R4, honestly, we don't have an R4. We have it listed on the legend, but we don't have it anywhere in the town.
Nothing's zoned that way.
Nothing is zoned that way, so it is a possibility. Someone,
One side is like you did, just, I guess, single wides or whatever, could try the mobile home park.
Mhm.
See if there's any interest in that.
I think you
Can't zone it out.
I think you can
zone it out. The
You
state
can't-
law,
You can't be exclusive according
unless-
to state law.
if someone puts covenants as on their property, they're dividing it, that it's not going to be, you can't limit, you can't say there's no mobile homes or manufactured housing.
So that, so the crowd can't be accommodated by, saying if in particular areas, all of these housing types are allowed, but in these areas, only certain housing types are allowed.
you can't do that. There, you can have restrictive covenants, but the town can't enforce them.
So I don't know. Yeah, we need to talk to Randy just to make sure that we won't get in trouble, but I just wanted to warn,
We're away.
that's what's coming.
I don't like to see
Bring
that.
that up, these two on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
see if there's anybody else there that's dealt with it in other communities. See what
Yeah.
they might come up with.
It might be a good stump the planner question.
There's really nothing that can be done. Well, you're dealing here
Well-
with a very powerful lobby, so that's all I'll say about that, but, so.
Yeah.
And federal housing regulations, so.
Also, for Friday, if you guys all want to go together, we can leave here at, what do you think, 8:15? We might want to do 8 only because I noticed that we can't park at the COG this time.
Okay.
Put that in effect again?
Yep.
Mhm.
So we got to hike it over there. So,
Meet here
we
at
can
8?
take a couple of vehicles if you guys want to ride together because we're coming back up anyway, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm off, so I was going to.
So meet here at 8. if you
I'll
wanna
drive
ride.
separately. 'Cause I'm answerable to a higher power leaving town.
All right, well, that's all I had for.
My schedule is
Oh.
not my own.
No, it's not. This is like the most important thing, and I was going to not say.
Well, are we,
Tim Dvorak is our new code enforcement officer.
All right.
He got approved today by town council.
good.
So we're super excited. He's going to start Thursday. He's going to go with us to the meeting on Friday. And then for about a week, he's got to go cover animal control. So he's going to float in between for a little bit until Mike gets back from vacation. But, so that's
Cool.
exciting news.
Cool.
Right.
And that's all I have.
Well, that takes us to calendar update. Debbie Downer. That, the update that came before this one was onerous. Anything else here? So next P and Z meeting, town council,
Are we going to be ready for action on industrial zone next
No,
time, do
it
you
doesn't
think?
sound
I don't
like
That
think
was
so. We'll change
Clearly
it.
a pipe dream.
discussion of the reference guide that we have in our hands.
Yes, and any suggestions on how to improve it / update it, recast it are very, that's what this was designed for, was to be a working document and a teaching tool that is cast in a way that meets the needs of the commission at a given point in time.
Yeah.
And as you'll see the date on this, the work started in what, 2010? 2010, 2011, and so there's a lot of water under the bridge, so a lot of changes to be made.
So we can probably take action on changes to commercial zones
Yeah.
next time.
Yeah.
Discussion of appeal of record.
We should have that back from the attorneys by then, I'm hoping.
Okay.
Mhm. And then discussion of development review in
Yeah,
general.
development review's kind of a small blurb, and I want to add a little more into that,
Okay.
so.
Okay, so no quasi judicial hearings at this point.
We've got some things people have come in and spoke to me about, but there's nothing solid yet.
Nothing
yeah.
proposed yet.
Nobody's paid the fees and.
Nope,
Okay.
no application yet.
Well, then, all I need is a motion to adjourn and a second on that.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're adjourned.